What up? My name's Eek Experiences, and this is something I've been wanting to do for a really long time. I just haven't ever gotten around to do it. And I'm gonna try to kind of go off the top here and do a little stand-up comedy. And as you can see in the background, it's titled The Experiences of Eek. Now, Eek's my nickname, if you don't know. Uh, but I've had I'm known as quite the goofy person or whatever. I was a teacher for 17 years for Denver Public Schools, but even before that, with family and friends, kind of been like a goofy person throughout my life, and have had some rather weird experiences in my life, which I'll go over, and hopefully you find this amusing and funny. And I'm gonna go back mostly through the years that I've had teaching, with some crazy experiences that I've had there, and a lot of experiences that I've had in between or whatever. And I think I'll start with. I want to go in chronological order, but that's going to be a little tough because it's all jumbled up here. But how many of y'all have like a brother or sister or someone who always just gives you shit all the time, and it just always just so happens that all the goofiest or stupidest stuff you could possibly do always happens to be in front of this person, just giving them all this ammo to get at you? Well, I definitely have that person in my life. I have a brother who is always there for the goofiest stuff of everything that I've ever done. And I think that's a pretty good place for me to start. Now, I remember one time I was going on my first snowboarding trip, and I go to Gart Sports, and I was kind of broke at the time, and I want to go and get some snowboarding pants and some gear to get up there and have one of my first snowboarding experiences. And I go to the clearance section, and I find what I like, the pants that I like. They're perfect pants, right? For me, well, I thought anyways. Looked at them, all I saw was extra large. I didn't bother to go and try them on or anything like that. So I show up home, and then that's where I wanted to try on my pants. And I'm at home, and I start putting on my pants, and here I am trying to pull them up, and they're just not getting on. I'm just like pulling, like, what the heck is going on? Like, did I gain some weight? Like, am I so much fatter now? Like, these set extra larges should be fitting me. And here I am just struggling to put them on. And here comes walking in my brother, and he's like, dang, dude, you gained some weight or something? You can't fit in them pants? And I was like, I don't know what's going on. These pants are extra large, and they're just not fitting me. So he kind of just starts taking a look, and then he just looks at me, and he's like, dude, why are you buying pants that say Liquid Girl on them? And I just look down, and I see the Liquid Girl sign that I didn't notice at the Gart Sports, and I was like, damn it, like, why did the women's snowboard pants have to get mixed in with the guy snowboard pants? So of course my brother doesn't want to accept that as an answer, and I haven't heard the end of it since. Every time this guy wants to bring up how I bought these Liquid Girl snowboard pants. And yeah, that's just one of the things. Also, okay, so another time, my brother, same brother, of course, and here I am in my apartment, and I'm just hungry, right? And I used to be quite the stoner, if you didn't know that. And here I was, high as hell, just getting some munchies. And I'm in my kitchen trying to find whatever I had. This was before I even started teaching, so I was definitely broke. And hot dogs were always the cheapest thing to buy. Hot dogs, hot dog bread, $3, and then you have 8 hot dogs and 8 buns. that lasts for a long time. And here I am, making what I thought was a real cheap dinner, and I'm looking for some other stuff to snack on too, and eating the hot dog as I do it. Of course, here walks in my brother. I'm just chomping on the hot dog, and I'm taking a bite. He's like saying, "Well, hey, what up, yo?" And I'm like talking, taking the bite, holding it in my hand, and he's just looking at me with the weirdest face, and he was just like, "Ugh, like what in the heck are you doing?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" I was like, "I'm just chilling, just trying to get, my grub on." And he's like, "Bro, look at your hot dog bun." And yeah, I had already eaten half of this hot dog, and the bun was the moldiest, nasty bun I have ever seen in my life. And I was just chomping it down. I didn't know better. And he was just laughing. He's like, "God, here you this nasty, moldy hot dog." And yeah, I still never heard the last of this. He will still remind me every chance he gets about the moldy hot dog. Now, you would think that those two stories are crazy enough, right? But no, not with him, not with this guy. Every single time the funniest stuff happens to me, he has to be right there. Now, here's the scene. He and we used to be some casino goers. And we pull up to the casino, and it just is a regular old casino day. And we're walking through the parking lot, and we had to park pretty far in the back of the parking lot. And we're rolling up to the back of the casino, because that's where you had to park, kind of go through the back. And in the distance, nothing special going on to me. I just happened to notice kind of like a truck driving off, and a group of people who seemed like they were leaving the casino. And as we were walking closer and closer, it seemed like something was going on. And, there's no way we could avoid it, try to mind your business or whatever. But there's a group of people who seemed like there was some commotion going on or whatever. And we're walking up, and I'm surveying the scene, trying to see what's going on. And as I get closer and closer, I notice that there's kind of a group of people around this old woman. And this old woman had her hands like this. And I'm like, what is going on here? And I'm afraid. And I look at my brother Mike. He looks at me, and we're like, what is going on here? Get a little bit closer. We're pretty close right now. And as I'm rolling up, I see this burger and fries on the ground. And the burger had a bite taken out of it. And I look at her again, and I look at the burger, and she's like this. And I'm looking at the burger, and I'm looking at her, and I'm looking at all her friends, or her family that was there. And I'm just like, "Hey, yo, why isn't anyone doing anything? Like, this woman is choking." And I did not know what to do. I did not want to have to do this. I was afraid, but I did not want this woman to die of choking on this burger in front of me. And I'm hoping that somebody does something. I'm looking at he's looking at me, I'm looking at them. No one's doing anything. I spring to action. That's this sort of picture right here. I go and I grab this old lady, and here I am, just like, boom, 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 just busting out the Heimlich on her. She's just like, like, just everybody's just like, oh my God, like scared. And I'm just like, holy smokes, just going to town. I'm just like looking at her. I was like, is she breathing? Is she breathing? She's still not breathing. I'm just going to town. And nothing's happening. And I'm like, man, what's going on here? And this woman just like, whoa, like just, I'm ragdolling her. Boom, boom, boom. And finally, I'm just like, I didn't want to break this lady's ribs or anything like that. She was an old woman. I put her down. I'm just like, is she choking? Like, what's going on here? And they're like, no, she's not choking. And I'm like, what do you mean she's not choking? What are you talking about? And then they started explaining that one of the guys who was there had almost just gotten jumped. And he was just one guy with about 4 women, including this old woman. And they said he was about to get jumped. This is his mom. And she started having a panic attack because he was going to get jumped. And I'm like, what? And then they said that he dropped the burger that he was eating because he was about to defend himself. So I'm just like so upset. I'm just like, why did you just let me do the Heimlich maneuver on her? I could have hurt her. You're not supposed to do the Heimlich on somebody who's not choking. Like, what are you thinking here? And they were just like, oh my God. But the good thing was that some stranger just walking up on this old woman and just thrusting on her took her out of her panic attack she was having and actually kind of gave her something else to think about, I guess. And she, from there, just calmed down, started breathing and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh my God, and I'm mad at this moment because I seriously could have just hurt her. And then, of course, I have my brother standing there laughing at me, saying, there he goes again, Eek doing all his goofy stuff. And I'm just like, man, you guys should have said something. Like, how are you going to let me just do the Heimlich on her and not tell me she wasn't choking? And they're just like, oh, we're sorry, but thank you so much. You actually helped her. You're like, now she's breathing and she's fine. I was like, yeah, I get it, but still, I could have really messed her up. Like, you guys got to say something. You can't be letting that happen. So, man, I was scared. And I did not want this woman to die. And I just remember as I was just really going to town on her, like, this woman is going to die on my watch. Like, after all of this, all this training that I've had, I should know better. This woman, I can't make her spit up her food. And yeah, she's going to die. And it's going to be my fault now because I couldn't do the Heimlich appropriately. All these things are going through my mind. And she wasn't even choking. So yeah, that's the kind of stuff, that happens to me, But hey, I'm not going to let anyone die on my watch, not from choking when I could do something, But I definitely did not want to be that person to have to do that. There was a few of us around there. No one was doing anything. So I tried to come to the rescue. Yeah, but I don't know. Seemed like I did something good. But again, that just happened to be that in front of him, my brother, who never lets me live these things down. So not one, it couldn't have just been the snowboard pants. It couldn't have just been the moldy hot dog. No, the grandmother of them all, the Heimlich maneuver on someone who didn't even need it. Yeah, it's just one of the stories of my life. Now, switching into my career as a teacher, I worked in special education. And working in special education, there's a lot of different type of scenarios that you have to deal with that I had to deal with that I would have never dreamed I had to deal with. Never ever in the life of me would I have ever thought I'd have to deal with some of the stuff that I had to deal with. Now, thinking about that, I was a pain in the ass as a high school student. As a student in general, I was kind of a pain in the ass. And there's this one teacher in particular, my Spanish teacher, and I just gave her the business whenever I could. Just really kind of smart aleck with her and sarcastic and all that. Never disrespectful because I wasn't that type. Well, I mean, that's debatable probably. I know one of the worst things that as a high school student, I used to do some funny, weird stuff. And one of the things I would do is I would always spit my gum out and smack it. Or kick it. Just see how far I could smack the gum, spit it out, smack it, spit it out, kick it, see how far I would go. And my Spanish teacher just happened to be subbing for my social studies class that day. And I'm goofing off in the back, while she's trying to be up there and teaching. And I told my friend, And I didn't mean for everybody to hear it, but I just told my friend when it was sitting right next to me, I was like, yo, check this out. And I had no intention of aiming this or anything. I think I was shooting for a trash can in the corner. And I'm like, yo, check this out. Most of the class looks. Spit out my gum, boom, smack it. Teacher's in the front of the class reading. Boom, gum hits her in her face and she drops the book and she's like, oh my God, oh my God. I was like, oh my Lord. And I was like, Miss, I'm so sorry. I did not mean to do that. I'm so sorry. And she's like, to the office now. And I get it. I went straight to the office. I took full responsibility. That was a jerk move of me for sure, 100%. And I look back at that and I have a lot of regrets about the amount of, I'm going to say harassment, but the amount of times that I really messed with this woman. And I still live in the same area as my high school. And I was at a local grocery store not too long ago. And I'm paying for my food, or getting in the line to pay for my food. And this other person, she was just paying for her food and she was bagging her groceries. And I'm getting in line. I'm kind of looking at her. She just looked familiar. And I was, oh, I think I know her. And then I saw her look at me and she kind of had this look. And I graduated over 20 years ago. So, these things are, I always remember pretty much the people who I've encountered and repeatedly encountered. So we're looking at each other and we were kind of thinking, and finally she just looked at me and said, do I know you? And I was like, yeah, I think we do know each other. And then kind of dawned on me and I told her, wait a second, were you a teacher? And she said, yes. And I was like, oh, wow. Were you a Spanish teacher at at this high school? And she's like, yes. I looked at her and I was like, yeah, that's how I know you. And she looks at me and she says, yeah, I remember you. You were quite the a-hole. And I looked at her and I said, yeah, I know I probably was. And I apologize. I'm so sorry about that. And she said, well, what are you up to these days? Just curious. And I looked at her and she looked at me and I told her, I don't think you'd ever guess. And she looked at me all wide-eyed and she's like, no. And I looked at her and I smiled and I said, yes. And she's like, no way. And I was like, yeah, I'm a teacher. And just so you feel good about what happened, just so you can feel good about what happened, I promise you that anything I did to you as a student, I got back 10 times as worse as a teacher. And she's just looked at me and was like, oh, wow. And I was like, yeah. And she was on her way. And some of those experiences I didn't get to share with her, but I'm going to share with you all now. I'm going to start with one of my first crazy experiences in a high school setting. Now, I worked with a variety of people who had different types of disabilities, and some had autism, some had more severe autism than others, some had intellectual disabilities, physical disabilities, developmental disabilities, and stuff like that. And disability is a word that is tough for me, and the verbiage is what's understood by the people in general. So that's what I use, but I don't want to go into that whole debate, but I just worked with a variety of different people who had a variety of different types of disabilities. And there's some students who have autism that display quite the unique behaviors, to say the least. We had a student in particular who, I don't know, he was like a gargoyle when he went to the bathroom. Now, we don't know really what it was or whatever, but this student in particular, he needed help, when he went to the bathroom and stuff, and he would poop quite uniquely, to say the least. Now, I'm going to kind of show you how that looked. So he would perch up on the toilet like this. And this is how he would handle his business. Perched up on the toilet and just drop them in there. Unique to say the least. Now on this particular day, technical difficulties. Now on this particular day, this student wanted to happen to want to handle business right before we had to take the students out to the bus. Now typically he could just perch right up there on that toilet and just go to town. You know, somebody just wipe them up and get going. And this typically wasn't my job. I would say fortunately. It was more so the assistant's job or paraprofessionals. You know, in my day as a teacher and as a paraprofessional, I've been in quite some crappy situations, to say the least, but a lot less as I became a teacher compared to when I was a paraprofessional. And on this particular day, again, here we had the student who wants to handle his business right before the buses leave. Now, the paraprofessionals had all left, and most of the teachers happened to leave for the day too. And since I was kind of the rookie, I was still there trying to, you know, show out and show people that I was working hard and staying later. I get a call on my walkie from my assistant principal. Mardones, you need to get down here right now. All right, I'll be right down there. So I get down to the bathroom, and there we had the school resource officer and 2 assistant principals and that student, and they were kind of all like watching the student, you know, trying to coax him down. You know, I walk into the bathroom and here he is, just perched up. And they said, Mardones, you gotta get him off that toilet and wipe him up, and we gotta get him on the bus before the bus leaves. I'm like, well, why me, man? Like, he's not even technically my student. And they're like, yo, you're the rookie here. You gotta handle this business. All right. So I'm here. Hey, buddy, let's get you cleaned up, man. Like, and I see that he handled his business or whatever. And it's crazy, but a weird question. I don't know if any of you have ever gotten teabagged before. Any of you almost get teabagged? I know that's questions out of nowhere, right? But it's kind of leading up to what was to come. Now, here I am. I didn't mean to be just inappropriate with the teabagging thing. But yeah, anyways, I'm like, all right, hey, buddy, you know, we got to get you going. Let's get you wiped up so we can get you on the bus. And there he is, all perched up. And I'm like, oh, man. And this was my first experience actually having to do that in the setting. You know, go in there and so I gloved up and grabbed the wipes, and I'm kind of going in, and I'm nervous, and I have 2 of my assistant principals watching me. I have the school resource officer watching me, and I'm going in, you know, for the wipe. And kid's there perched up, and I'm coming in, and here he is, perched up, handling his business. They're done handling his business. All right, buddy, let's go. Kind of trying to come in from behind how he was, and he decides he wanted to leave right then, and he just jumps off of the toilet. And I'm right here. And here comes this key. Here, this is my head, right? And here he is. And he leaps off. I never knew I could do the Matrix move. But I was just like, whew. And that kid flies over me. Whoa. I damn near got teabagged. You would have never thought that I was so damn flexible. I fly down. Nutsack. Didn't even graze me. Nothing. Didn't touch me. That would have been the worst. I don't even know if I would ever recovered from getting teabagged by a student. That probably would have been the end of my career, possibly even my life. That's a life ruiner there. Getting teabagged by a student your first year. No, you don't recover from that. Luckily, I had the reflexes. Whoa. Now this kid lands, grabs his pull-up, pulls him right up, pulls his pants on up, and just strolls on over to the bus like nobody's business. Here I am, sweating, scared. My life flashed before my eyes, and I look up only to see my assistant principals and the resource officer laughing their asses off. Those a-holes. They never let me hear the end of it. They thought it was the funniest thing in the world. Not me, though. I did not like it. Now, I had to kind of sit there and gather myself. They wanted to get on with their day. I had to recover. I kind of sat around in the bathroom, just trying to regroup, gather myself, rethinking my whole life's decision to even become a teacher. Like, why did I choose this? This was the biggest mistake of my life, choosing to do this. I finally decide to move along. I go upstairs and I'm walking to my classroom. First teacher I see, just cracking up. And I'm like, yo, what? And they're like, I heard what happened. I'm like, what are you talking about? And they're like, yeah, you just almost got teabagged. And I was like, what? How the heck that happened literally like 5 minutes ago? How you know that this happened? And yeah, I don't know if anybody thinks that admin or teachers don't talk amongst themselves about things, or they try to keep things confidential. No, they don't. We run our mouths. Guess what? Students, teachers, whoever, you do some goofy stuff or some crazy stuff happens to you, within 5 minutes, every teacher and everybody on that staff is gonna know. Take my word for it. That's the truth. Everybody knew that the rookie special education teacher almost got teabagged within 10 minutes. The next day at work was horrible. Everyone was talking about it. Every teacher I saw was talking about how I almost got teabagged. Yeah. Great start to my career, by the way. All right. So again, that's just some of the crazy stuff that happens. Now I'm going to go into a real whammy now. Now this one was almost a career ruiner. This is even crazy for me to even admit. I can't even believe I'm going to do this. I've only told a handful of people this story, you know, and some of them have been strangers who I didn't mind telling because I'd never ever see them again, you know, even as embarrassing that is. And you'll know how embarrassing after this. But to say this on this grand of a scale is crazy. And it actually might even ruin the possibilities of me ever even getting a girlfriend again or having anyone or a woman want to kiss me again. All right, and this is how bad this is. All right, if you don't know, you're about to know. I don't know how much experience you guys have had with some of the quirky things that some people could do. Um, Again, there's a different type of severity of students who have certain disabilities, some more severe than others. Now, I'm not trying to necessarily make fun of everyone. This is my experience and something that really happened to me, you know, and again, not trying to uh, tease a group of people. I'm a very passionate, was a very passionate school teacher. That was one of, you know, some of my proudest years, the work I did, especially in special education. That population has my heart and soul, and I've dedicated my life to improving the conditions within the world for people who have disabilities. So, again, I'm not making fun of anyone. These are just things that happen to me. Now, that being said, ever heard of an anal digger? Well, I hadn't either until we popped up with this one student, and we determined that that's the kind of term we had to use with this student was anal digger. And the thing that this person would do, any chance that they got, finger right up the ass, pulling it out, touching every little thing. No joke. This isn't the funny part. Again, and I'm not trying to tease anyone, but we had an anal digger. Any chance. Basically lived with his finger up there. No joke. And when it wasn't, it was touching everything. Everything. Every day. 50 times a day. We had to disinfect the entire room. Everything this student would touch. Excuse me. Now, you had to keep things clean, especially when someone's doing that. And there's a lot of rules that come with this type of territory. You know, a lot of boundaries. You think about one thing with students when they may be having certain type of episodes or something like that. And there's this term called restraint, and we never wanted to have to restrain students ever. And that's not what I'm trying to go into. But the word restraint could mean you just restrict or limit a person's movement. So you stand in front of a doorway and you don't allow them to leave the door just because they're trying to get out. It could be considered a restraint and an issue. So with this particular person, we wanted to limit the places where this person could go, because literally we would have to walk and clean everything after that. So to the best of our capabilities, there are times where we would have to keep them, confined within the room. Now, sometimes that would just mean somebody sit in front of the doorway, and that was a deterrent enough for this student to not try to attempt to leave the room. On this particular day, this kid was on one. Just on one. And I wasn't his direct teacher, but I was really good friends with the person who was. And he was just struggling all day with this kid. Now, one of the plans that we actually had to come up with for this student, and we had to get all types of authorizations from this, all types of signatures, parents, all that kind of stuff, to try to help limit and prevent the anal digging. We came up with this idea to put a jumpsuit on him. Now, it's a onesie type jumpsuit. And we would put that on him, and it would kind of work, but then he figured out how to stick it, his hands through the thing, still get up in there. Then we were like, okay, now what if we turn the onesie around backwards? There's not going to be that, because you zip it all the way down and step into it. So, okay, let's turn it around then, so he just doesn't have the access. All right, and then we put a belt around. Now again, signatures, parents, all that, district personnel, all authorized. We didn't just go renegade on this. We had to figure these things out team style, because this was a serious one. Okay, we got the kid, onesie, backwards, belt. Really kind of limited. After a whole day of fidgeting though and wanting to get in there, he was kind of bendy himself, and he kind of would eventually try to figure out how to wiggle in there. The more people that we had, the easier it was to kind of detour his hands, from just being able to have all the time in the world to do it. I'm in my own room minding my business, and I get a call, and it's my friend who was the teacher down there. He's like, Eek, can you get down here as soon as you can? All right, bro, I'll be right there. Head down to his classroom right away. I didn't happen to have students at the time. I walk in. Well, I didn't walk in right away because he was at the door, just kind of holding the door shut. And the kid was kind of, trying to work his way wherever. And he's like, he was sweating. My boy was sweating. Sweat just dripping down. Pale. I'm like, bro, what's going on, dude? What's the matter, dude? How can I help you? And he's like, it was those doors where you have to push this bar down. And he has both bars. He's holding them. He's like, he's on one today, and I can't let him out the room. But I got to go to the bathroom so bad. And I was like, oh, bro, dude, go handle business. I'll take care of this. Yeah. He's like, but you can't let him out. He is on one today. Like, you just don't let him out. He's everywhere. He's destroying everything. All right. Won't let him out. I got you. He leaves the room. I close the door immediately. I'm holding the door shut. Now again, I can't believe I'm about to say this, because this is the most embarrassing thing that has ever happened to me in my whole life. And I'm sharing it just to get it out there and get it off my back. It's over. All right, it's over. I can live with it now. I'm out the game. I'm not around the same colleagues. Just gonna get it out. Okay. Holding the door. And I'm like, keeping it shut. Again, not making fun of anyone. This kid, though, was relentless. He reminded me of zombies in a movie. They just keep coming. And he's just like, just trying to get through. Trying to get through. Get up off. I got it. Holding the door. If I let go of that door for 1 second, he's opening that door. And I'm not going to slam that door if that door gets open. I'm not trying to squeeze no hands or break any fingers or anything like that. So that's the best thing, is keep it shut at all costs. And I'm looking at him, and he's right there, leaning up on me, trying to get out. I'm like, not gonna happen. This happened in a split second. Now, I told you about how I had those cat-like reflexes with the teabag incident. Man, I wish I had those same. I was a couple years deep in the game. My cat-like reflexes had now faded. I was like, old man in there. No cat-like reflexes anymore. Here I am, holding the door. And here he comes. Trying to get out. And no, you will not believe this. In the blink of an eye. Now, it happened so quickly. Yet at the same time, it happened in slow motion. I don't know how that's humanly possible. That's just the way things go down when things are so intense sometimes. The blink of an eye, but in slow motion. Again, I don't know how that makes sense. But this is what happened. Holding it, the kid reaches back. He like a behind the back dribble all quick. The kid went in, went up, pulled out, lunged at me, and I could see it on his fingers. It. I'm holding the door. Now I'm sweaty. Now I'm scared. It's like I had it in the blink of an eye. I forgot to say, this kid would also go for throats. He would go for throats. So he would try to choke you. I'm holding not me, just everyone. He would try to choke everyone. Holding the door. He goes in. Whoop. Comes out. Going for my neck. Now I listen to Wu-Tang. I tried to protect my neck. Cat-like reflexes. Not quite there. Holding the door. He's coming at me. I turn. I see it. Turn. He's coming in. And I'm like, no. He comes in. I flip like this. My shoulder deflects his hand. Now, I wish I didn't protect my neck. I much would have rather taken the shot to the neck. Boom. Whoa. Yeah. It. I fling back. I'm stunned. The kid kind of deflects off. Kind of goes off. She turned around. I don't know what. Mostly everything was a blur. I'm there. Don't know what's going on. I know what happened. But I'm just like, did that. Now, I still was thinking about the job. I was still thinking about not letting him loose. I'm still holding on. It was there. And I'm like, holding the door, not knowing what to do. Kevin comes in at that moment. He comes in at that moment. And I'm like, he looks at me. I think it was like I had just eaten some cake or something. And he's looking at me. And he's like, whoa, what's going on? And I'm like, he's like, he doesn't know I'm like, I gotta go. And I just run to the bathroom. I don't know if you guys have seen Ace Ventura, where that part where he's like, after he finds out who he kissed, and I'm over there in the toilet. I'm running to the thing, just spraying my mouth, getting everything I can to clean myself up and get it all out there. And I'm at the same time scared. I thought my life was over. I didn't know if I had any communicable diseases at that moment or anything like that. Again, my life was flashing before my eyes. I am afraid. I am disgusted. I am puking. I don't know. All the decisions that I had made that had led me up to that moment, I was regretting, and no clue what to do. After as much, I wish I had had a pack of gum like Ace Ventura. I could just shove it all in there, and some mouthwash rinse and toothbrush and all that stuff, man. And I run to the nurse's office. It's the first thing I could think of. And it was already embarrassing enough that happened, but now I had to explain to another adult what had happened and how that had happened, because you have to give an explanation when a student gets there, like you just have to explain that. You can't just, it's not just something you say and then they're like, oh, okay, well, cool, this is what happens next. It's like, well, how the fuck did that happen? And I'm like, oh my God, like, so I had to explain that to, the nurse and stuff like that. And she's like, yeah, you probably need to go to the HR and fill out a workman's comp thing and all that. But first you have to now go tell your assistant principal that you're about to leave. And I also have other teachers who I work with who I have to inform of what was happening and why I have to leave. Of course, I try to want to keep it as little details as possible. If you're not a part of that, then you don't really need to know all the details, do you? Well, if you're a teacher, you do, because once again, if you think that for 1 second teachers and admin keep things confidential, they don't. So when you do crazy stuff or crazy stuff happens to you, you either A, have to keep it to yourself and never tell anyone, or if people find out, best believe everybody, every single staff member, including the janitors, are gonna know what happened to you. That's just the way it goes. Teachers, admin, run their mouth probably more than the students do. That's one thing I learned in the education system. And here I have to go tell my AP what happened, and they send me to the ER. I had to go do workman's comp and all that. And they are cool about it. Hey, well, maybe you should just stay home the rest of the day, too. What do you mean, maybe? I am staying home the rest of the day. And you know what? I'm probably quitting, and you'll probably never see my face again. That's how I felt at the time. Like, yeah, I'm going home. I'm staying there. There's no way I'm coming back in here after that just happened to me. Right? That's just not going to happen. And I probably quit. All right, so just take my resignation now. You should understand. All right, I was heated, embarrassed, emotional, all that stuff, disgusted, sickened, literally the worst. Nothing ever worse than, there's nothing worse than that. You name one thing that's worse than that. Tell me what's worse than somebody's going in your mouth like that, right? Tell me what's more disgusting than that. Leave me a comment or something. Tell me what's more disgusting than that, right? And please, hey, if anything crazy like that has ever happened to you, let me know. Make me feel better about myself, right? Share with me your horror stories so I can feel better about myself as a human being, right? Anyways, tell them I go. But I thought about it, and I thought about it. Contemplated my life, contemplated life's decisions, thought about it if I ever wanted to show my face there again, because again, I had already knew And when I stepped back foot in that building, everybody was going to know that the day before I ate some, yeah, I knew it. Everybody was going to know. And I wasn't too excited about that. I already had to live with that on my own. But then to think that there was a lot of people who knew what happened, something so intimate. Maybe that's not the right word. Something that I wanted to keep as confidential as possible. No one wanted. I knew I had to tell the nurse, I had to tell my AP, the teacher who I was helping, that definitely knew what happened. And I felt confident that he would keep it between us, man to man, And he did, I think. It was the other people who didn't. My assistant principal at the time could not keep her mouth shut. I went to school the next day. Yeah, I didn't quit. I should have. Should have quit then. Went to school the next day. Everybody knew about it. Yeah. Everybody knew about it. And it sucked. And definitely hard to live up to. Excuse me. Oh, I had to blow my nose. Now, talking about the blowing the nose part, I'm going to transition to another part because that was really embarrassing. And hopefully I could say some stuff that's funny enough to make you forget about that whole part. I hope that maybe that part made you laugh a little bit then. And then now I come with more funny stuff that it makes you forget that. But I don't know if it's going to happen in that way. I'm not sure. But I had this nickname called Mr. Butt Scratcher. And it was a student who just popped up and called me Mr. Butt Scratcher. Now, I've been called a lot of nicknames, Mr. McDonald's, all kinds of stuff, Mr. Avocado. Whatever kids could say that rhymed with my name, they made up a nickname for it. Butt Scratcher all of a sudden popped up. This was like 6 years ago, and it just stuck. And it even passed along to other kids, and I couldn't get it. Okay, Butt Scratcher, haha, real funny, right? It wasn't that clever to me or funny or whatever, but everybody just kept calling me Mr. Butt Scratcher, and I'm like, I don't scratch my butt. And the kids are always throughout the class, oh, he's scratching his butt again. I'm not scratching my butt. What are you guys talking about? And they would always just say I was scratching my butt, and I never thought I was. And then one day came along, and I'm in the middle of the class, and I reached to get my tissue, and I blow my nose. And the kid, right as I did that, said, he did it again. He scratched his butt. And I kept my tissue in my back pocket. Now I'm always reaching in my back pocket to get my tissue to blow my nose. Every time I was trying to get my tissue, they thought I was scratching my ass. Mr. Butt Scratcher. It all had made sense. It finally had dawned on me that this was the reason, that this was it. This was the reason they started to call me Mr. Butt Scratcher. And I was like, oh, that actually is kind of, I do look like I scratch my butt all the time. That's the origins of the name Mr. Butt Scratcher. I just thought I'd go into that after I just had that little tissue break, which I have to take ever so often. Now, ever had to talk to somebody about how they could get like their sexual urges out in an appropriate way? Yeah, I never thought I would have to either, especially kind of not a parent of one of my students, right? But these are some of the things you have to talk about with parents when you work in the field that I do. I had this kid, oh, poor guy. He was a character, to say the least. Again, I'm not trying to make fun of anyone, right, or be mean or anything. These are just things that really have happened. This young man was born real premature, as preemie as you could get and still survive. 24 weeks. And the kid, being born that young, premature, was shorter than most. One of his legs was longer than the other. Had a stint, a variety of things, that impacted his life every single day. And on top of that, very cognitively impaired, really cognitively impaired. Most of the students who I had worked with have IQs around 50, and I don't know how that looks as an individual, but that's really low. Again, not teasing or making fun. This kid, though, was like any other kid. Had feelings. He was a teenager, had his hormones going, and he wanted to get some. He wanted to get some really bad. And he wasn't shy about letting people know, especially the girls. The girls who he wanted, he would let know. Yeah, just straight up. And it was quite the conversations that we had to have in regards to that. Now, I was called nicknames, and I made up some nicknames for some of my students too. And some of them I would never have called to them, of course. They're by their nickname. But they had them. And most of them stayed in my mind. Right? Some others I might share with close colleagues who understood. This person had such hormones flaring up that his nickname was the walking erection. Yeah. Because this kid was walking around all day talking about getting it in. I want to have sex. Straight out. I can't wait to have sex. I'm going to have sex. That's all this kid wanted to do. And when I think about it, when I was that age, that was probably similar thoughts that I had, right? And maybe a lot of young men growing up also. And we just kind of knew better not to go about talking about it like that. Now, one of the awkward situations that I had was during one of the meetings that we had to have with a lot of team members and the family and stuff, and the team had mostly left, but a lot of the meeting was centered around what could we do in regards to that. Like, there was not much we could do. The kid wouldn't listen. Some of the things that he would say were crossing the line, but this kid had no fear. We tried to have the resource officer of the school talk to him about it in like a stern way, because some of the way the kid was going about trying to get some was rather inappropriate. And we had the police resource officer kind of really give it to him in a stern way to see if that would work. And he laughed in the resource officer's face. He just straight up said, "I don't give a what you say," to the resource officer, and he did it. He's like, "I'm gonna keep saying and doing what I'm doing," and he did. This kid didn't care. He did not care, to say the least. Now the meeting's over, and I'm there talking with the mom one-on-one, and I felt for this woman. I really felt for her, and I felt for the kid too. Because the chances, this kid getting to fulfill his dream of getting it seemed far-fetched, if I could word it in any way. And she, now again, awkward conversation. She's like, "I don't know what to do. We don't know what to do." We've offered him toys and stuff. And I'm, okay, that's good stuff. How'd that turn out? And she's like, yeah. We gave them to him. And that hasn't really calmed it down. Oh, well, these people happen to be from Mexico and took trips down to Mexico every once in a while, and I may or may not have suggested. No, I did not suggest that they take a trip somewhere, and yeah, maybe I did not do that. But the awkward conversations that some people have when it comes to that. Now, this isn't the main story that I wanted to say about this particular young man. This dude took a particular liking to one of my best friends who also happened to be a teacher at the school. Now, when I say he took a particular liking to him, I actually mean that he really hated his guts. Now, I mean he hated him. Like, he said he wanted to light him on fire and pee on him type love. Yeah. No, he couldn't stand the guy and always cussing him out and always giving him the business every chance he had. And on this particular day, he was on one. And just happened to be that coincidentally, within that same time frame, a chair, we had these chairs that had the desk attached to them, and one of the legs on the chair broke off, and it was a jaggedy old piece of metal, this leg, you know, and it was all jaggedy at the top. You could grab a leg, and it didn't fit quite in the trash can, so we had it next to the trash can, and we were, you know, for the facility crew to come and get it, and that was there just coincidentally. Now, this kid was going off so much that that teacher who was in the room at the time, he couldn't really leave. He had to kind of stay with that kid in the room because he was just going off. So there's like, just have him in the classroom as much as you can. So he was eating his lunch in the classroom with that kid there. I happened to be on my lunch. All the other students were gone. I walk in. Hey, what's up? You know, to the other teacher. And there's the walking, yeah, you know, he's over there, and he is just yelling across the room, giving him the business, F you, and I'll kill you, and all this stuff. And my boy was one of the is one of the calmest. He's just chill. Like, he doesn't really get you really have to work him up for him to get flustered. And the amount of times I've seen him get flustered in my life are hardly any. And here he is, and just getting the business. And I walk in like, yo, whoa, dude, chill out, bro. Like, take it easy. You know, it's not that serious right now. We're just here chilling. Just sit down and eat your lunch. Just chill. No, I hate him. I want to kill him. I'm going to beat him up. And, you know, I'm being really nice with my words here. I want to be able to post this on like YouTube and not get censored or something. And he's just giving him the business, you know, like the business. And I'm in the room, and he comes over to me, and I wasn't worried about him, you know, because me and him were pretty much cool. I mean, he would give me the business too, but he wasn't focused on me that day. He was focused on my boy. My boy's over there eating. And, you know, he had his lunch with him, and just eating away with his fork and stuff. And that kid, Rick, was so mad. He was giving him the business, and that kid was so mad. And he grabs the jagged edge of the table, the leg of the desk that's all jagged, and he says, "I'm gonna kill you." And I was so stunned. I had again, my cat-like reflexes gone. This kid grabbed it and made his move. and I'm watching, and it's like slow motion, and I'm like, yo, trying to get my boy's attention, like he gonna go kill you with that thing, and this kid's running his fastest, winding up with all of his strength, going to kill my boy. You know, like going to kill him, running his fastest, and I'm like, dude, be careful. And he's just eating nonchalant. He still wasn't phased. And I'm like, bro, he's gonna kill you. And he's like, meh. And I'm like, dude, look out. He's going in for the kill. Whoa. And I'm like, oh my God. And he, with the fork still in his hand, just reaches out, boop, catches his arm, looks at the kid, he's like, yo, dude, chill out. What are you doing? Takes the thing out of his hand and holds it, and the kid's just like, oh, blah, 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 and goes back to the other side of the room like, how did you do that? And he's like, bro, like that was like 2 miles an hour. And I was like, oh yeah, I just had thought that things were going in slow motion, but it was him, and that kid, he was just slow. And you know, like I said, one of his legs was shorter than the other, and he didn't have any strength at all. You know, he was really small, really light, but the way that he was going after it, you know, and my reaction and my past history and all my horror stories were all coming into play. And I'm just like, and it was really no big at all, because his full speed ahead and his full strength was nothing at all, you know. So my friend saw him coming the whole way there, wasn't worried not one bit. Mid bite, stopped him in his tracks, took the thing out of his hand, asked him what he was doing and to move along. Kid did, and he just kept finishing his lunch. And I'm like, yeah, I guess I shouldn't have been reacting like that, right? But you know, yeah, things happen to you and they leave scars. Well, you know, to say that my time as a teacher and stuff had its experiences. I've had my experiences in life. Those were just a few, to say the least. And I hope that my stories and the experiences of Eek were maybe something that could brighten your day. I hope that you had some laughs. I hope you enjoyed the content. This was real stuff. I just went off the top of my memory because they were real. I wanted to sit there and write this all out and have a whole sequence of events. I know I left some jokes out that I wanted to say, but I can't believe the time that I've taken so far to do this and to get some of my stories out there. I am no longer a teacher. I have retired. I've started my own nonprofit organization called the Inclusive Denver Movement. As I said, all of these jokes were not to tease any group of people or be mean towards any group of people. I have a sincere and legit passion to improve conditions for people who have disabilities. That is what the Inclusive Denver Movement is all about, is making the world a more inclusive place for people who have disabilities. I kind of did this with all that in mind, and I invite the world and everybody to join the movement, the Inclusive Denver Movement, and let's make the world a better place for people who have disabilities. Again, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope that my stories had an impact and meaningful, and hopefully you all got a laugh out of it. And again, I hope I didn't offend anyone. Thank you very much, and may you all have a blessed day.